It all started when I was 15, and it's a chapter of my life that still haunts me. Growing up, I was the middle child, stuck between my older sister Sarah, the golden girl, and my younger brother Liam, the untouchable baby of the family. Sarah was the perfect daughter, responsible, ambitious, the one who could do no wrong. Liam, on the other hand, was the spoiled youngest child, adored and protected by my parents. And me? I was just there. Not bad enough to be a problem, but not good enough to shine. My dad had a collection he was obsessed with: pocket knives, baseball cards, and autographed baseballs. He had an entire shelf in his bedroom dedicated to his prized possessions, each one with a story about how he acquired it. It wasn't my thing, but I respected how much it meant to him. Then, things started to disappear. The first item to go missing was one of his favorite pocket knives, a unique piece he often bragged about. At first, he thought he'd misplaced it, but then more things vanished: a baseball card, another knife. His mild annoyance turned into suspicion. One day, he called all three of us, me, Sarah, and Liam, into the living room to ask if we'd seen the missing items. I told him straight up that I hadn't, and Sarah and Liam said the same. But something about the way he looked at me felt off. Then came the moment that changed everything. My dad barged into my room one afternoon, holding one of his missing knives like it was a smoking gun. "Why is this in here?" he demanded, his voice sharp. I froze. I had no idea how it got there. "I don't know," I stammered. "It's not mine." "Don't play dumb," he snapped. "This is my knife. What's it doing in your room?" From that moment on, I was the prime suspect. It didn't matter how much I denied it or tried to explain myself. To my parents, the knife in my room was undeniable proof of my guilt. The accusations didn't stop there. Every time something else went missing, a baseball, more cards, it was automatically my fault. My parents didn't even bother questioning Sarah or Liam anymore. To them, I was the thief, plain and simple. What made it worse was that my dad told the rest of the family. Suddenly, every family gathering felt like a trial. My uncles made jokes like, "Better watch your wallet around him." My grandma gave me disappointed looks. Even my cousins seemed wary of me. At school, it wasn't much better. My mom had confided in a friend about the situation, and that friend just happened to be the parent of one of my classmates. Within days, the rumors spread. Kids whispered about me in the hallways, calling me a thief behind my back. No matter how many times I said I didn't do it, nobody believed me. It was like shouting into a void. Looking back, I sometimes wonder if Liam planted the knife in my room. He was always around, quiet and observant, and he never got involved in the drama. But even if he did, I had no way to prove it. From then on, my parents treated me like a criminal in my own home. After my dad found the knife in my room, my life became a waking nightmare. I was officially the family scapegoat, and every interaction with my parents felt like I was under a microscope. At first, the punishments were relatively minor, groundings and losing privileges like TV or my phone. But as more things went missing, the consequences became harsher. One day, one of my dad's prized autographed baseballs disappeared. It wasn't just any ball. It was signed by his all-time favorite player. When he realized it was gone, he stormed into my room, furious. "Where the hell is it?" he yelled, holding the empty display case like it was evidence of my guilt. "I don't know," I said, panic rising in my voice. "Don't lie to me again," he shouted, his voice booming. He tore through my room like a tornado, pulling open drawers, dumping my clothes on the floor, and even ripping apart my backpack. He didn't find the baseball, but that didn't stop him from accusing me. "You think you're clever, don't you?" he spat. "Hiding it where I won't find it? Well, guess what? You're not getting away with it this time." My mom walked in during the chaos, but instead of calming him down, she joined in. "We've given you chance after chance," she said, her tone sharp. "And this is how you repay us?" Their words cut deeper than I cared to admit. The constant accusations made me question everything. What if they were right? What if I was somehow taking things without realizing it? I even started Googling things like unconscious stealing and memory lapses, desperate for an explanation. The punishments became more creative and cruel. My dad made me scrub the garage floor by hand, saying, That's what happens when you disrespect other people's property. My mom piled on with passive-aggressive comments. Oh, so now you're asking permission for things? How nice of you. No matter what I did, it was never enough. They canceled my 16th birthday altogether, saying I hadn't earned the privilege of a celebration. No party, no presents, not even a happy birthday. It was just another day of being treated like a criminal. The worst part was the isolation. My sister Sarah stayed neutral, avoiding the situation entirely. She spent most of her time in her room, pretending nothing was happening. It hurt because I thought she might stick up for me, but she didn't. Liam, on the other hand, just stayed in the background, acting like none of it affected him. By the time I turned 17, I wasn't the same person anymore. The constant accusations and punishments had worn me down. I stopped trying to defend myself or explain anything. What was the point? They'd already decided I was guilty. I stayed in my room as much as possible, only coming out when absolutely necessary. Every time I left, I felt like I was walking on eggshells, bracing myself for the next explosion. The anxiety was suffocating. Every sound in the house made me jump, and I constantly felt like I was one step away from another accusation. When I finally turned 18, I moved out as fast as I could. I didn't have much, a small savings account and a few belongings, but I didn't care. I just needed to get away. Moving out at 18 felt like escaping a prison I'd been trapped in for years. I didn't have much, a small savings account, some clothes, and a few keepsakes, but I had something far more valuable, my freedom. I found a modest apartment and threw myself into work, taking on extra shifts wherever I could to make ends meet. It wasn't easy, but it was mine. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells. I cut off almost all contact with my family. I wasn't ready to face them or rehash the accusations that had consumed my teenage years. My parents sent the occasional text around the holidays, short, impersonal messages like, "Merry Christmas, hope you're doing well," but I never responded. Sarah reached out once in a while. She'd moved to another state for college and didn't visit home often. While we weren't close, I appreciated her attempts to check in. At least she wasn't trying to guilt me into anything. As for Liam, I didn't hear from him at all. Not that I expected to. He was still living at home, comfortably playing the role of the golden child. Over time, I started to rebuild. I made new friends, picked up hobbies I'd abandoned during the chaos, and slowly began to feel like myself again. But the scars from those years didn't fade easily. Even now, at 23, I still catch myself second-guessing things. If something goes missing at work, my first instinct is to wonder if someone suspects me. I hate how ingrained that feeling is. Like the accusations from my parents left a permanent mark on my psyche. Despite all of that, I've managed to create a life that feels stable and peaceful. I have a good job, a cozy apartment, and a few close friends who genuinely care about me. For the first time, I feel like I'm in control of my own narrative. Then, out of the blue, my mom called me. I almost didn't pick up. We hadn't had a real conversation in years, and I wasn't in the mood for small talk. But something told me to answer. Her tone was different. Not the casual indifference I was used to, but hesitant, almost shaky. "Hi, sweetie," she began. "I hope you're doing well. I need to talk to you about something." I wasn't sure what to expect, so I just said, "What's up?" She hesitated, then dropped the bombshell. "Things have been going missing again." I sat up straighter. Missing? Like what? She listed off a series of items, cash from their wallets, jewelry, even some of my dad's collectibles. It was a lot more serious than the stuff that went missing when I was a kid. "This time," she said, "we wanted to be sure before accusing anyone. So, your dad set up cameras in the house." I held my breath, bracing myself for the inevitable accusation. But then she said something that completely floored me. "We caught Liam." I was stunned. My mom explained that the cameras had captured Liam sneaking into their room late at night and taking things. He'd been hiding them in Sarah's old bedroom, and it was clear this wasn't a one-time thing. "He's been doing this for years," she admitted. "Probably even back when you were still living here." I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. All those years of being blamed, punished, and humiliated. It wasn't me. It had never been me. My mom started apologizing, saying how awful she and my dad felt about how they treated me. "We should have believed you," she said. "We were wrong, and we're so sorry." Sorry. That's what she said. Like one word could magically erase years of mistrust and pain. She ended the call by inviting me to her upcoming birthday dinner, saying it would mean a lot if I came so we could talk in person. I told her I'd think about it and hung up. I wasn't sure what to do about my mom's invitation to her birthday dinner. Part of me wanted to tell her to shove her apology where the sun doesn't shine. But another part, the part that still craved closure, was curious to see what they had to say. When the day came, I decided to go. I wasn't excited about it, but I wanted to hear them out. The dinner was at a fancy restaurant, the kind of place my parents only visited for big occasions. When I arrived, my mom greeted me at the door like nothing had ever happened. "I'm so glad you came," she said with a smile, as though she hadn't spent years treating me like a criminal. My dad gave me an awkward nod from the table, which I suppose was his version of an apology. And then there was Liam, sitting at the far end, looking like he wished he were anywhere else. For the first half hour, my parents kept the conversation light. Small talk about work and life, pretending to care about what I'd been up to. It was forced, but I played along. Then, my cousin Emily decided to stir the pot. Out of nowhere, she said loudly enough for the whole table to hear, "Better keep an eye on your wallets, everyone. You know how things tend to go missing around here." The room went silent. My dad tried to laugh it off, but I wasn't having it. I leaned forward, locking eyes with Emily. "Don't worry, Emily," I said coolly. "I'm sure your boyfriends say the same thing about you when they're comparing notes." Her face turned bright red, and tears welled up in her eyes. My Uncle Mike, her father, immediately jumped to her defense. "That's enough," he said, glaring at me. "You've got no right to talk to her like that, especially after everything you've put this family through." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What I've put this family through. I shot back, my voice rising. "Are you serious? After all the crap I went through because you people couldn't figure out who the real thief was, you're still blaming me?" Mike doubled down, saying something about family harmony and how I should be more respectful. That was the final straw. I stood up, looked directly at my parents, and said, "This is what you created. You turned me into the family scapegoat, and now you expect me to just sit here and take it? Forget it." Then I walked out. I didn't even make it to my car before my dad caught up to me. "Wait," he said, looking more stressed than I'd ever seen him. "You don't have to apologize for what just happened. That wasn't your fault." "You're damn right it wasn't my fault," I said, turning to face him. "But what are you going to do about it?" He didn't have an answer. He just stood there, looking uncomfortable. "We're trying to fix things," he said finally. "We really are." I didn't respond. I just got in my car and drove home. After the dinner fiasco, I knew I was done playing along. My parents could apologize all they wanted, but no amount of sorry could undo years of mistrust, punishment, and humiliation. A few days later, Sarah called me. She hadn't been at the dinner, which didn't surprise me since she'd moved to another state and rarely visited. "Mom told me what happened," she said. "For what it's worth, I think you handled it better than I would have." Hearing her side with me felt good, even though it was bittersweet. She told me Liam had finally confessed to everything. Not just the recent thefts, but the ones from years ago, too. According to Sarah, Mom had a full-blown meltdown when she found out. "She's been crying for days," Sarah said. "She feels awful about how they treated you." "Good," I replied flatly. "She should feel awful." That same week, my mom called again. This time, she sounded more desperate than apologetic. "We want to make this right," she said. "Your dad and I are selling some of our things to help pay off your student loans. We're even planning to get you a new car. It's the least we can do." I couldn't believe it. They thought they could buy my forgiveness. "I don't want your money," I told her. "And I don't want your car. You can't buy your way out of this." She started crying again, but I didn't care. For years, they treated me like the family screw-up, and now they thought a few expensive gifts would erase all the damage they'd done. Then came the news about Liam. He'd stolen my grandpa's truck, crashed it into a streetlight, and totaled it. My grandparents were furious and kicked him out, refusing to let him come back until he paid for the damage. My parents had to cancel Liam's college fund to cover the costs. That's when I found out they'd planned to use part of that money to buy me the car they'd been talking about. The irony was almost funny. When my dad called to tell me about it, he sounded more defeated than I'd ever heard him. "We've made so many mistakes," he said. "I don't expect you to forgive us, but I hope you'll at least let us try to make things right." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to believe him, to give them a chance. But the other part, the part that had spent years being blamed, punished, and humiliated, wasn't ready to let it go. "I'll think about it," I said, though deep down, I already knew my answer. After weeks of back and forth, endless calls, and messages, I finally made my decision. I sat down one night and wrote a message to my parents. "I appreciate the effort you've made to apologize and make things right. I really do. But the truth is, I don't think I can ever fully trust you again. The way you treated me for all those years, assuming the worst, punishing me, isolating me, it's something I can't just forget. I need to move on with my life, and that means cutting ties for now. Maybe someday I'll feel differently, but right now, I need space. Please don't contact me anymore. I'll reach out if and when I'm ready. Take care." I sent the message and felt an overwhelming sense of relief. For the first time in years, I felt like I was finally taking control of my life. Sarah called me the next day to check in. When I told her what I'd done, she didn't judge me or try to change my mind. "I get it," she said. "You have to do what's right for you." Her validation meant more to me than she probably realized. It's been a few months since I sent that message, and honestly, I feel good about my decision. Cutting ties wasn't easy, but it was necessary. For the first time in a long while, I feel like I can breathe. My life isn't perfect, but it's mine. I've built something stable, something peaceful, and I'm not willing to let anyone, including my parents, jeopardize that. Sometimes walking away is the only way to heal. And for me, it was the only choice I had left. Thanks for sticking with me through this journey. Here's to living life on my own terms, free of drama and filled with peace.